Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Gaming Vortex. My name is Vitaly and today we're going to be talking with you about something that's been burning through the internet for a very long time, and that's of course the rumors about the upgraded PlayStation 4. The PS Neo, whatever it's called right now, or PS 4.5, PS 4K, whichever way you want to call it, whichever name you want to use it. Basically, that's what we're going to be talking about. Before I start, let me talk to you a little bit and introduce myself and just tell you what about my gaming background for a little bit. I've started gaming back in late 80s, so I've played on many different consoles and a PC as well. I mean, I started off with ZX Spectrum, also tried Atari. I've had a NES, SNES, Mega Drive, or Genesis as it was called in America. Also, I've skipped the GameCube, but I've played it decently. You know, when I had a free time at my friend's place, he had a GameCube. We've skipped, obviously, the Sega Saturn and that monstrosity that it was, but PlayStation-wise, I've been with PlayStation since day one. I've had a PS1 and all its iterations, the slim one and the normal one. Same with the PS2 and PS3, and of course PS4. I've actually had 3 PS3s and all of them broke down. And the latest one just yellow lighted on me. Anyway, I've been a loyal fan for the PlayStation. I stuck with them. I've also had a Wii somewhere in a closet that's been collecting dust for the last, I don't know, 4 or 5 years already. Not the Wii U, the Wii. And basically, that's a little bit of my background. PC gaming, I was really into PC gaming for a very long time back in the days. I used to play Counter-Strike and Quake 2, Quake 3 Arena just religiously, to the point that I was spending day and nights playing that game. For years I've been competing in the championships and tournaments and things like that, so that's the time when I was a hardcore PC gamer. Now I'm more of a console because I'm a family man, and when I have a chance, obviously I'll throw a few games on PC because I always prefer playing shooters on the PC. By that, of course, I mean first-person shooters. Now let's go to the PlayStation Neo finally. I'm gonna give you my honest opinion on the PlayStation 4 Neo, whatever it's gonna be called. Also, I'll tell you how I think this whole thing will play out. At least that's how I see it at this time. First of all, let's go to the history of PlayStation. I've actually, at the back of my mind, when the PS4 was announced and released, at the back of my mind, even though many people didn't agree with me, I kind of knew that this thing will happen sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to happen this soon, literally 3 years into console lifecycle. Now, when the PS3 came out onto the market, it was entirely new architecture. It was based on a Power PC. It was very expensive. Very complicated to make games for, so the developers really had to put a lot of effort, and I think that's what actually saved PS3. You know, got it through the 10-year life cycle just as soon as it was hoping, because it was really difficult to develop for it, and it took ages for the developers to actually squeeze everything out of that console. Apart from the fact, of course, that it had very little RAM. That was the whole bottleneck actually for the system. That's why we couldn't get these things like party chat and other shit. And anyway, when they shifted to the x86 architecture, is pretty much a PC, that's what it is. What I've noticed straight away is that by the time the console hit the market, apart from RAM having a really high bandwidth, I mean, the hardware was already outdated. It was a 2-year-old hardware, and I said to myself, I mean, well, the developers will squeeze the shit out of this console very quickly, and sooner or later they'll have to upgrade it, or just, like I said, there's no way that it's gonna last 10 years. I was hoping, because I do have one, and I don't really want to buy another one, but surely it looks like it's going to have happen. So when I first looked at it, and I said, nah, they're not gonna do it. But then at the same time, yeah, they have to, because the whole thing is really underpowered by this time. I mean, yes, developers like Naughty Dog and others, first-party studios, will polish their games, but the third-party developers most likely won't, because they couldn't care less. Now, the problem here with the PS4 Neo, in my honest opinion on this, is that why is this happening now? Why? What is actually the idea behind this? Because This is something that you could justify doing when you're thinking, when you look at the sales numbers of the PS4 and you see a big dip that it's diving into the ground and it's not selling well. This is when you come up with something like this, then it would actually make sense. But you've already sold 40 million PS4s on the market and it's still selling like hotcakes. So why are you doing this? Why do you want to segment your market? Why do you want to separate the players? Sony is saying in their internal documentation that there must be no difference between the games between those running on the PlayStation 4, the original one, and the PS Neo, right? The PS4 Neo, whatever the hell it's called. There must be no special features, no extra content. But then what begs the question is that the console is more powerful, so the games will run with a better frame rate, the higher graphical fidelity, more particles and things like that. That is the special feature. That is the special feature that they actually said the games shouldn't include. A lot of people actually called me out and said like, oh, it's been done before, like PS3 Slim and Super Slim came out and Xbox Elite. No, it's not. It's bullshit and I'm calling you out on that. That's not what happened. PS3 Slim, Super Slim or Xbox Elite, 360 Elite, that was just a redesign of the form factor. Yes, the components were different slightly because they had to manufacture it according to the new nanometer standard. It became more power efficient, it became smaller, it became cheaper. That's the main reason for those consoles, is to put the cost of the production down. So the margin of profit is growing. But the performance-wise, it was the same identical performance from the PS3 Fat to the PS3 Slim and Super Slim. There was nothing else graphically upgraded or any other components that were literally upgraded to make it a superior console. This is not true. Here I have the article with the leak specs, right, that came to the developers through Sony. And it says the original PS4 and upcoming Neo, both consoles would have an 8 Jaguar Core CPU, which pretty much identical, right? But they're running at a different frequency, 2.1 gigahertz compared to the PS4's 1.6. Now, of course, the processor is not going to be the main highlight. It's not really going to make a big difference. But for example, GPU, even though it's built on the same technology, it's actually got a 36 central processing units on it running at the higher clock speed compared to only 18, which is half on the PS4 running at 800 megahertz. And the same thing is for the memory. 8 gigabytes GDDR5, just like on PS4, but the bandwidth has increased from 176 to 218 gigabits per second. I mean, that's a big difference. That's going to be a very noticeable difference when you're actually playing games. And from my perspective, I've talked to some developers and I've talked to other people in general who have experience in making and creating games. Some of them are actually terrified of this and they don't understand why is this happening, because as much as you think it's just as simple as changing the settings, right, in the game to make it run better, it's not that simple when you're actually making games. You have to spend more time optimizing games for both consoles to make sure that they're not glitching, they're working properly on both consoles. Both versions have to go through the QA testing, both versions have to go through certification, so it's an extra expense on time and money. And you will see that eventually it will come back to bite Sony in the ass. There will eventually be a game that will run really good on PlayStation Neo, but runs like shit on PlayStation 4. And the same thing, which we'll probably see during this E3, when they're going to be showing off things like God of War. Are they going to be saying like, this is running on the PlayStation Neo, is this running on the PS4? How do we even know the difference? And if they say that, the other question will be, well, if this is on PlayStation Neo, how the fuck does that thing look like on the PlayStation 4? Do I have to buy and find out? And then it's the question of the gamers. Last generation, Sony really fucked up when they said $600, get a second job. It took them a whole generation to get ahead of Microsoft, right? Okay, they never succeeded in the US, but in the worldwide sales they did. Is this a big middle finger to everyone who supported PlayStation until now? 40 fucking million PS4 sold, and what are they gonna tell those people now? Well, sorry, you bought inferior hardware. I mean, I've bought it on day one, but then somebody just bought the PlayStation like a week ago or 2 weeks ago. What the fuck are they gonna think? Well, why the hell did I buy it now if I could have waited? And for those people who are thinking there's gonna be a trade-in program, no, there won't be. They're not gonna do that. They're not Apple or anything like that. They're not in a position to do that financially or in any other way. Yes, they said they're gonna keep them side by side. That means the price of the original PlayStation has to drop, and it has to drop by more than just $50. Otherwise, what's the difference? What's the point? What's the point then? And if it drops more than $50, let's say $100 or $150, which I don't think it will go, I think it's going to be $299. Then the question comes up to, well, now I can't fucking make any money on, or even half of the money by selling that thing and then buying the PlayStation Neo, right? If you were planning to sell your console for, let's say, $250 and then the price is going to be $299, you'll have to drop the price even further to sell yours. And then who the hell will want to buy it knowing that there's another PS4 out there which is more powerful? Sooner or later that's going to be the dominant for the development. And the developers will just, oh, fuck it, we'll just develop for the PS Neo because it's got more power, and with our creativity we can do more on that console rather than the PS4. It's just in the beginning that it might pan out the way Sony actually thinks it will. Now, am I pissed off? Yes, of course. I mean, I have another daughter on the way, another baby. I mean, it's more expense, you know, and some people say, like, if you don't really need it, then don't buy it. Well, then I still want it, because you know that feeling when you really want something new, you know? And yes, some people say that we change our phones every year for spending $500-600 on the iPhone or Galaxy Note 5 or something like that. It's true, but then phone is much more versatile device than the console. It's always in your pocket and it can actually do more things than just play games and watch Netflix. It's actually a productivity device as well. So that's justifiable, and at the same time a lot of us don't actually pay for the phone that much because it's all subsidized by the mobile phone companies. So that they're not going to do that. Sony's not going to be subsidizing your new PlayStation. No, of course not. So yes, I am pissed off. Yes, I will probably still buy it. I still want to see how this all plans out. The thing is, it can make or break Sony or whoever else is going to try this. Yes, Microsoft said they might go for a modular console that can be upgraded. But then what's the fucking point? Just buy a PC then. I don't want to be upgrading my console every year, and to be honest with you, throughout the whole years that I've been in the gaming, for 30 years the console market never changed, so why is it changing now? A lot of the console owners, they're not expecting changes. They're not expecting to upgrade their PlayStation or Xbox every year or every 2 years or every 3 years. What's the fucking guarantee that 2 years after the releasing Neo there won't be a PlayStation 4.7 or something like that? And by the way, somebody said, okay, it will output 4K gaming. It will upscale to 4K, that's for sure. There is no fucking way that this console, at $400, there is no hardware on the market that will be able to hit native 4K at even 30 frames per second. There's nothing on the PC probably that can do 60 frames per second on the 4K right now, or at least that's gonna cost you thousands of dollars. And they expect to sell something that can do 4K at 30 frames for what, $400? No fucking way. So the only thing they can do is upscale the games from native 1080p 60 frames to basically 4K resolution. Now, why is this happening? To be honest, I have no fucking idea. I mean, I hope that Sony will actually look at the sales of PlayStation 4 and say, let's just shelf this idea for now and we'll get back to it if something goes wrong. But I know they're not going to do it because the documentation already has been sent out to the developers. It says that all the games must be patched or already have to incorporate PS Neo specs starting from October, which means this thing will most likely show up on E3 and it will be released around October, November this year. So I'm scared. I mean, I'm scared because this can actually hurt Sony in the long run. This is not what the people were asking. I absolutely agree with Colin Moriarty at Kinda Funny on the PS I Love You XOXO actually said the thing that I was thinking about is the same as, why are you fucking doing this now? Why are you showing a big middle finger to everyone who supported you? Yes, the loyal majority will buy it. If you could have waited another 3 years, 2 or 3 years, you could have gone away with releasing a PS5 already. And that would be it. That's fine. I don't mind if the life cycle of the console is 5, 6, 7 years. It's alright. But not every 2.5, 3 years we get a new fucking hardware that we have to buy. Because like for now, yeah, I have PS4, I'm playing on it. I mean, do I think it's underpowered? Yes. But do I think it's really bad? No. Do I want to buy another one? No. Because to be honest, what the hell am I gonna do with this one? I mean, give it to my friend or something like that? But at the same time, everyone who bought this one will think, well, I just bought an inferior product, right? So this is basically my idea, and I think that, to be honest, it's not even 50-50 of how this thing is going to turn out for Sony, good or bad. I think it's going to actually, as I said, come back and bite them in the ass, because people are not used to this. That's going to be a shocker. It might be positive reaction and people start buying it again, so the install base is growing, but then it's just a matter of time until some game comes out that just fucks up everything and runs like shit on the PS4, but runs good on the PS Neo. Sooner or later, yeah, the developers need more hardware, but you should have thought about it earlier, right? My biggest guess is that this whole thing has something to do with PlayStation VR. I think when Sony started up with the PlayStation VR, they realized that the PS4 doesn't have what it takes to push the graphical fidelity to come close to, let's say, Oculus Rift or Vive, right? But the consoles are not meant to do that anyway. I mean, yes, that's why you have this gigantic processing unit with the PS4. I think that's what it's for, is to help the console offload some of the stuff onto that central processing unit there, right? The box that comes with the PSVR, so it actually can run properly. Maybe that hardware is going to be integrated into PS4 Neo. God knows, but I think that's the main point here. I'm really interested to see how Sony will try to sell this to the consumer, because I'm just really curious about the reaction of the people during E3 if they show off this thing and it's $400 and they have to convince people that they need another PlayStation. But if they say you don't have to if you don't want it, what's the fucking point of releasing it in the first place? I mean, obviously people will want it, even if they're saying that they don't. I don't know, guys. I really want to know your opinion on this topic, so please leave the comments below and tell me things like, do you think that it's gonna plan out the same way I think it will be? Do you plan to buy one if it's actually announced or released? Or do you think this is just still a rumor, which I think there's no way of denying it, that it's actually coming. It is coming. Now, in the last interview, Shuhei Yoshida actually was asked about the PlayStation 5, and he said something along the lines of, the question is not when, the question is if, saying that if the PlayStation 5 will ever come out. And maybe that's going to be the plan, like with the mobile phones now. You just keep upgrading it. We're just going to release a newer version every couple of years. And I don't know, I think even if it will work, it's going to be a very, very rocky start for the gaming community in general, who are not used to upgrading consoles or buying new console every couple of years. I think when people actually buy it, they expect it to last, well, at least 6-7 years before they actually consider buying another one. Otherwise everybody would be sitting on the PCs, and frankly, if you have to upgrade your console every 2-3 years, why not buy a PC and just game there? Because PCs always were superior to the console in terms of graphical fidelity, and the performance is always better. But that's not the reason why we play on the consoles. That's not the reason. It's not only about graphics, isn't it? It's about the convenience, it's about that it's cheap and you don't have to worry about the drivers, you don't have to worry about if this game is going to run next year or a year later. You know that you just put the disc in and it just works. And that's the convenience of the console gaming, sitting on the couch and enjoying a game. So there we go. Thank you for listening, and please leave your comments below. I really want to know what you guys think about this, and will you actually buy one, and how much do you think it will cost? I mean, the documentation said it will be $399, but God knows. I hope there's going to be some kind of a good explanation, because Sony really needs to try really fucking hard to sell this thing to the masses. Alright, thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next show.